Tonight, we drift back to the mysterious world of the Etruscans, a civilization older than Rome itself, one that flourished in the hills of central Italy, left behind stunning tombs, gleaming metalwork, and whispering myths, and then, quite suddenly, faded into silence. The Etruscans were once the masters of the Italian peninsula. Skilled in seafaring, trade, and engineering, they built cities with careful symmetry, carved entire households into the earth for their dead, and surrounded themselves with the signs of a rich, symbolic universe. Their language, still only partially understood, echoes faintly through surviving inscriptions. Their art, vivid and full of life, speaks volumes about who they were, even as their written words remain elusive. In this sleep-learning journey, we will unravel the story of the Etruscans, from their obscure origins and rise to power, to their complex relationship with the early Romans, and finally to their quiet disappearance beneath the growing shadow of the Roman Republic. Along the way, we will explore sacred temples, wander bustling marketplaces, observe funeral rituals, and meet the kings, artisans, priests, and warriors who shaped this enigmatic culture. As you listen, let the language carry you like a slow river through the centuries. You may find yourself dozing off. This is welcome. The story will continue as you rest. And when your mind wanders, it will wander through golden fields, terracotta rooftops, and marble tombs. Each chapter will gently build upon the last, guiding you through a chronological path. We begin in the Bronze Age, when the first hill settlements emerged. Then we'll trace the formation of Etruscan cities, their flourishing society, their artistic heights, and their religious practices. We'll explore their curious relationship with Greek and Near Eastern cultures, and watch the slow, steady encroachment of Rome as it rose to dominance. This is not just the story of a lost people. It is the story of how civilizations rise, how they shape the world around them, and how, like dreams, they sometimes dissolve into the civilizations that follow. Now close your eyes if you haven't already. Feel yourself settling deeper, wrapped in the safe cocoon of the night. You're resting now, but your mind is ready to drift. The hills of ancient Etruria await. Let's begin. As the mists of memory lift over central Italy, we find ourselves in the early first millennium BCE. Before cities, before kings, before the rituals that would define Etruscan culture, there was the Villanovan culture, the earliest archaeological phase of what would become the Etruscan world. We begin in the soft dawn light of the Bronze Age, around 900 BCE. Along the rolling hills and fertile valleys of Etruria, a region that stretches across what is now Tuscany, northern Lazio, and parts of Umbria, small, tightly knit communities gather around hearths. Their dwellings are simple, round or oval huts with thatched roofs. Yet even here, among humble fire pits and handmade pottery, the first signs of something distinctive begin to take root. The Villanovans are skilled metalworkers using bronze to craft tools, weapons, and personal ornaments. They bury their dead in urns shaped like huts, known today as biconical urns, often covered with helmets or bowls. These urns are then placed in cremation cemeteries, arranged with care and ritual. Even in these early burial practices, we see hints of the importance the Etruscans would later place on the journey after death. Archaeologists today consider the Villanovan culture the proto-literate or formative stage of Etruscan society. It is during this period that trade networks begin to expand, reaching out toward the eastern Mediterranean, toward Greece and the Near East. Imported luxury goods, Greek ceramics, amber from the Baltic, Egyptian scarabs, appear in elite graves. These treasures suggest not only a growing wealth, but also a hunger for connection and meaning beyond the local landscape. As we drift through the 8th and 7th centuries BCE, we see a gradual transformation. Villanovan villages begin to coalesce into more organized, fortified urban centers. High ridges become the foundations for cities. The people begin to live in stone and mud brick houses, no longer simple huts. Public spaces emerge, marketplaces, religious precincts, and streets. This transformation marks the birth of the Etruscan city-state. Each city becomes a lucumonia, or independent political unit, ruled by a lucumo, a chieftain or king. Though each city is independent, they share language, religion, artistic styles, and burial customs. These commonalities suggest a strong sense of cultural identity, even without a centralized government. Among these cities are names that will echo through history: Veii, Tarquinia, Cerveteri, Volci, Chiusi, and Clusium. Nestled into hillsides or perched atop volcanic plateaus, these cities blend naturally with their environment. From a distance, they appear as extensions of the land itself. Now, imagine walking through an early Etruscan city. The streets are narrow and winding, lined with homes of sun-dried brick. Smoke curls upward from hearths. Children play in courtyards. Traders shout over stalls piled high with cloth, grain, olives, and foreign curiosities. At the center stands a sacred area, perhaps a raised platform for sacrifices or a temple under construction. Sacred birds wheel overhead, their flight paths carefully observed by augurs, priests trained to interpret the will of the gods. The Etruscans inherit much from the Villanovan culture, but they also innovate. They begin to write. Their script, adapted from the Greek alphabet, appears first in short inscriptions on pottery, grave goods, and religious offerings. Though the language remains only partly deciphered, we know it was rich and expressive, filled with ceremonial and legal vocabulary, and while their language develops, so too does their sense of the divine. The Etruscans believe the universe is governed by powerful, invisible forces. The gods do not merely watch from afar, they actively intervene in human affairs. Everything in the Etruscan world is connected to divine will. To act without consulting the gods is dangerous. This reverence shapes every aspect of their society. Even city planning follows religious principles. According to later Roman sources, Etruscan haruspices, diviners who read omens in animal livers, determined the orientation of city walls, streets, and gates based on divine signs. As we move through the 7th century BCE, the Etruscans become fully urbanized. Their cemeteries expand into necropolises, entire cities of the dead, with streets and house-like tombs carved from stone. These tombs reflect not only a belief in the afterlife, but also a growing social hierarchy. Some are simple chambers. Others, like those at Tarquinia and Cerveteri, are elaborate, multi-roomed tombs decorated with vibrant frescoes. These frescoes show dancers, banquets, musicians, and mythical scenes, glimpses of a joyful, sensual world. In death, as in life, the Etruscans celebrate. And yet, their joy is never far from ritual. Every celebration, every decision, every action is grounded in religious observance. The gods must be honored, the signs read, the rituals performed correctly. This worldview, this unshakable belief in cosmic order, will define Etruscan society for centuries. By the end of this chapter in their story, roughly the mid-7th century BCE, the Etruscans have emerged as a fully formed civilization. They possess cities, writing, religion, art, and a growing web of trade across the Mediterranean. They are no longer simply heirs to the Villanovan hearth. They are architects of something wholly new. And so, as we leave behind these early centuries, we carry with us the soft glow of lamplight over stone streets, the music of flutes echoing through tombs, and the rustle of sacred robes in moonlit temples. The Etruscans have arrived. Their cities rise. Their rituals deepen. Their influence spreads. In the chapters to come, we will follow them into their golden age. But for now, rest in the soft hush of this early world. Let the gentle rhythms of daily life in ancient Etruria guide you into deeper relaxation. We find ourselves in an age of elegance and expansion. the Etruscan cities have grown strong, fortified with thick walls and organized along sacred lines. This is the Etruscan Golden Age, a time of cultural flowering and regional dominance, when the Etruscans are at their most powerful, both economically and politically. The cities of Tarquinia, Veii, Volci, Caere, modern Cerveteri, and Clusium thrive. Each is a center of industry, religion, and governance, yet no single city rules over the others. Instead, Etruria remains a constellation of city-states, each ruled by its own elite class, yet bound together by shared traditions and mutual interest. This elite class, the noble families, or aristoi, lives in large, decorated homes with atriums and courtyards. They wear finely spun garments dyed in vibrant colors, adorned with gold jewelry, and recline on carved banqueting couches. Their wealth comes from fertile land, skilled craftsmanship, and most importantly, trade. The Etruscans are master traders. Their cities, nestled between the Apennines and the Tyrrhenian Sea, are ideally situated for commerce. The coastal cities build busy ports, sending ships laden with grain, wine, oil, terracotta, and metalwork to markets in Greece, Carthage, Egypt, and the Near East. In return, they import luxury goods, Greek ceramics, ivory, glass, fine textiles, and rare perfumes. These imported items become symbols of status and appear frequently in tombs, signifying the close link between commerce, art, and spiritual life. And in their own right, the Etruscans are expert artisans. They create elaborate bronze mirrors, intricately engraved with mythological scenes. They craft bucero, a sleek black pottery prized for its metallic sheen. Their metalworkers produce finely detailed armor, jewelry, and ceremonial vessels. These artifacts reveal not only technical mastery, but also a profound sense of beauty and symbolism. Walk with me now through an Etruscan marketplace. The stone streets hum with life. Stalls spill over with figs and olives, cloth dyed in indigo and crimson, and amphorae of wine marked with merchant seals. Greek and Phoenician traders bargain in many tongues. Music drifts from the steps of a nearby temple. And in the heart of it all, the Lucumo, the city's leader, rides past in a chariot, robes flowing, an augur at his side interpreting omens in the flight of a raven. Politics in this era are complex and sacred. The Etruscans do not separate the divine from the civic. Each city-state is governed by aristocratic families, but always in consultation with religious officials, priests, augurs, and haruspices, who interpret the god's will. The state is guided by divination, and every major event, be it war, building projects, or legal decrees, must be approved by divine signs. This brings us to one of the most fascinating aspects of Etruscan society, their religion. The Etruscans believe the cosmos is divided into regions, each governed by specific deities. They believe that the lifespan of a people or a city is finite and dictated by the gods, what they call a divine destiny, or fatum. To live rightly, one must understand and follow the divine order. To do this, they develop a vast and complex system of ritual. One of the most important forms is haruspicy, the reading of the liver of sacrificed animals. A bronze model known as the liver of Piacenza, covered in inscriptions, shows how the liver was divided into sections associated with different deities. Priests, trained for decades, interpret these signs to guide public decisions. They also practice augury, observing the behavior and flight of birds, and maintain sacred texts known as the Etrusca Disciplina, handed down from mythical seers like Tages, a prophetic child who emerged from a plowed field. Temples begin to rise in this era, grand wooden stone structures perched on high terraces. Though few survive today, Roman descriptions and archaeological remains tell us they were richly decorated with painted terracotta figures. The most famous is the Temple of Portonaccio at Veii, adorned with statues of gods and heroes such as Apollo, Heracles, and Hermes. The architecture is distinctly Etruscan, though influenced by Greek styles. A deep front porch, a raised podium, wide eaves, and powerful symmetry. Within these temples, sacred rites are conducted, libations, sacrifices, music, and dance. The Etruscans do not see the gods as distant or abstract. Their deities are present, demanding, and integrated into the rhythms of daily life. But it is not only in religion that the Etruscans shine, it is in their cultural identity. They embrace and adapt elements from the Greeks, Phoenicians, and even Egyptians, yet always rework them into something distinctly Etruscan. A Greek myth painted on a tomb wall becomes, in Etruscan hands, a reflection on the soul's journey. A foreign vase becomes a sacred object, ritually buried with the dead. Let us now step quietly into one of the great tombs of Tarquinia, known as the Tomb of the Leopards. Inside, the walls are alive with color, scenes of a banquet in full swing. Men and women recline together, raising goblets, surrounded by musicians and dancers. Overhead, two painted leopards guard the scene, their spots stylized and vivid. This is not merely decoration. It is a window into how the Etruscans imagined the afterlife, not as a dark void, but a continuation of life's joys, rich with music, food, and companionship. These tombs are often referred to as houses for the dead. Their architecture mirrors the homes of the living, carved beds, chairs, and ceiling beams, all in stone. The dead are laid to rest with their finest garments, weapons, jewelry, and sacred items. The tomb, then, becomes both a shrine and a reflection of social memory. During this golden age, the Etruscans also expand their influence beyond Etruria. To the north, they reach into the Po Valley. To the south, they dominate Campania, where cities like Capua flourish under Etruscan control. On the sea, their ships are known and respected. They become part of a triad of powerful Mediterranean cultures, alongside the Greeks and Phoenicians, vying for influence and wealth. And perhaps most famously, they hold sway over Rome itself. According to Roman tradition, the last three kings of Rome, Tarquinius Priscus, Servius Tullius, and Tarquinius Superbus, were of Etruscan origin. These rulers introduce urban planning, stone temples, drainage systems, and public games to the early Roman city. Even the symbols of Roman authority, such as the fasces, a bundle of rods with an axe, are of Etruscan origin. For a time, Rome is not a rival, but a vassal, shaped by Etruscan governance and religious practices. The famed Cloaca Maxima, Rome's great sewer, is an Etruscan engineering marvel. This era of Etruscan dominance is a delicate balance, held together by wealth, sacred tradition, and maritime prowess. But as the century draws to a close, that balance begins to shift. New powers stir in the Mediterranean. The Greeks press harder from the south. Rome begins to assert its independence. The seeds of change have been sown. Still, for now, let your mind linger in the beauty of this golden age, the vivid frescoes, the stately temples, the songs of flutes drifting from banquet halls. You are walking through a world where art, spirit, and daily life move in sacred harmony. Let it settle over you like warm sunlight through olive trees. Drift deeper now, and let the memory of prosperity soothe your thoughts. As we drift further into the Etruscan world, the sounds of daily life begin to quiet. The clang of metal, the songs of banquets, the voices of merchants, all give way to something deeper, more timeless. We enter the realm of ritual, of cosmic balance, and of sacred communication with the divine. Religion lies at the very center of Etruscan existence. It is not a separate sphere of life, it is life itself. The Etruscans believe the universe is structured, ordered, and governed by divine laws. To understand and live in harmony with this structure is the highest goal of both individuals and communities. Their worldview is encapsulated in the term disciplina etrusca, the Etruscan system of religious knowledge. It is not simply faith. It is a science of divination, a set of instructions revealed by the gods and preserved by priestly tradition. The origin of this sacred knowledge is steeped in myth. According to Etruscan lore, a divine child named Tages emerged one day from a freshly plowed field. He was radiant with wisdom beyond his years, and he taught the Etruscans the ways of the gods, the proper rituals, the omens, the architecture of the heavens. Alongside Tages, a female prophet named Vigoya revealed further truths, especially about land, boundaries, and sacred law. These figures, though mythical, symbolize something deeply real, the belief that divine order must be learned, preserved, and practiced, not guessed at. Etruscan priests devote their lives to interpreting signs from the gods. The most respected are the haruspices, trained to read the livers of sacrificial animals. The liver, considered a mirror of the cosmos, is divided into regions associated with specific deities. A blemish here, a swelling there, each nuance carries meaning. It is an intimate conversation with the divine. Complementing this is augury, the interpretation of bird flight. From elevated platforms or sacred groves, augurs observe the direction, number, and type of birds in the sky. A raven flying east might confirm a favorable course of action. A flock veering sharply south might signal divine displeasure. No battle, harvest, or city project is undertaken without these readings. The Etruscans believe the sky itself is divided into 16 regions, each assigned to a deity. This sacred zoning is mirrored on Earth. Cities are planned with cardinal precision, gates aligned with auspicious directions, temples placed according to divine geography. Even the layout of tombs and roads reflects this sacred order. Let us now walk through an Etruscan temple in the soft glow of dawn. The temple rises on a high podium, reached by a central staircase. The roofline is crowned with bright terracotta figures, perhaps of Apollo, striding in mid-step, or Tinia, the sky god, watching from above. The columns are broad and closely spaced, supporting a deep shaded portico. Inside the cella, the inner sanctuary, offerings are laid upon an altar, wine, incense, garlands of boo, laurel. A priest chants softly, invoking the gods. Nearby, a bronze tablet records a prayer in elegant Etruscan script, its meaning partly veiled to us today. But we sense the reverence, the quiet intensity, the belief that every action here echoes in the divine realm. Beyond the temples, religion permeates Etruscan homes as well. Small household shrines honor lares and penates, protective spirits. Sacred symbols, such as mirrors, keys, and serpents, are placed around doorways and courtyards. The family meal itself may begin with a libation, poured gently to the earth. And yet, for all their concern with divine favor in life, the Etruscans are perhaps most famously preoccupied with what comes after. They do not fear death. They prepare for it with care, detail, and, often, joy. Their tombs are not grim monuments, but elaborate recreations of domestic life. To step into an Etruscan tomb is to step into a home built for eternity. Imagine, if you will, entering the tomb of the shields and chairs in Cerveteri. The space is carved directly into tufa stone. Stone beds line the walls. Above them are carved armchairs, and on the walls hang shields, symbolic perhaps of the family's status or the journey the dead will take. Everything is still, everything prepared. Or wander through the tomb of the lionesses in Tarquinia. The walls pulse with color. 2 lionesses flank a doorway, watching over a feast. Banqueters recline, raising goblets. Dancers whirl, and musicians play double flutes. This is not a farewell. It is a continuation, a passage to another plane where beauty, music, and community endure. Burials are accompanied by grave goods, personal items, offerings, and symbolic objects, jewelry, mirrors, weapons, figurines. These serve both practical and spiritual purposes, aiding the soul in its transition and signaling the status of the deceased. The Etruscans also depict myths in their tombs, some borrowed from Greece, others uniquely their own. They portray Charun, the grim guide to the underworld, wielding a hammer and guarding the gates of death. Alongside him may be Vanth, a winged goddess of fate who offers comfort and protection to the departing soul. These figures are not merely artistic motifs. They reflect a rich eschatology, a belief in judgment, guidance, and a journey beyond the grave. The afterlife is neither heaven nor hell, but a complex realm shaped by one's deeds and rituals. And what of the soul? The Etruscans conceive of a soul or spirit known as the lassa, a life force that lingers after death. It may need guidance, offerings, and remembrance. Tombs, therefore, are not just final resting places. They are active spaces, maintained by the living to honor the dead and ensure peace in the unseen world. In this way, the Etruscan dead remain present among the living. Families return to the tombs for rituals and remembrance. Names are inscribed in stone, voices are lifted in song, wine is poured, incense rises. This deep continuity between the worlds, of living and dead, of gods and humans, defines Etruscan religious thought. Even as Rome rises and foreign ideas flood in, the Etruscans hold fast to their sacred disciplines. Roman authors, centuries later, still consult Etruscan haruspices in times of crisis. The very architecture of Roman religion, its priesthoods, auspices, and temple design, owes much to this older, more mysterious tradition. As we near the end of this chapter, allow yourself to rest within this timeless world, a world where every bird's flight, every sheep's liver, every painted wall and temple column speaks to a grander harmony, where life is lived not in opposition to death, but in conversation with it. Close your eyes, if they are not already closed. Let the scents of incense and crushed laurel drift through your mind. Hear the distant murmur of priests, the whisper of wings overhead. You are surrounded by a civilization that listens to the earth, the sky, and the silent paths of the afterlife. Drift gently now. The next chapter will lead us into the broader Mediterranean, where Etruria meets the world. We find ourselves aboard a merchant vessel, its hull laden with amphorae of wine and oil, bound for the distant coasts of Gaul or Greece. The Etruscans are not an isolated people. They are part of a thriving, interconnected Mediterranean world, a vast cultural and commercial network stretching from Phoenicia to Iberia, from the Greek Aegean to the North African coast. In this chapter, we drift across the sea lanes and port cities that connected the Etruscans to the wider world. It is a tale of commerce, influence, and mutual transformation, a chapter in which the Etruscans are both students and teachers in the great school of civilizations. We begin in the 8th century BCE, when the first Greek colonies are established in southern Italy and Sicily. These settlements bring with them new ideas, goods, and artistic styles. The Etruscans quickly form relationships with these newcomers, especially with the Greeks of Euboea, who settle in Pithecusae and Cumae. From these early contacts springs a rich cultural dialogue. The Etruscans adopt the Greek alphabet, modifying it slightly for their own language. They import red figure and black figure pottery, filled with scenes from Greek myth, Achilles, Heracles, Persephone, and Dionysus, stories that the Etruscans reinterpret in their own artistic language. But this is no one-sided exchange. The Etruscans are not passive recipients of foreign culture. They adapt and transform it. A Greek crater becomes an object of ritual in an Etruscan tomb. A Greek myth becomes a metaphor for Etruscan fate. Even the Etruscan depiction of gods takes on hybrid features, Greek in form but uniquely Etruscan in character. And as their ships move farther afield, the Etruscans themselves become known. Ancient writers refer to them as Tyrrhenians, a name by which they are remembered in Greek and Roman sources. The Tyrrhenian Sea still bears their name, a silent echo of their maritime past. Etruscan vessels ply the waters to Massalia, modern Marseille, to Corsica, Sardinia, and the Balearic Islands. They carry not only goods, metalwork, buccarò pottery, textiles, and grain, but also ideas. Their art, iconography, and ritual practices leave traces in faraway lands. To the east, Etruscan tombs contain Phoenician glass, Egyptian scarabs, and Levantine metalware, evidence of connections with the cultures of the Near East. These items are not merely exotic trinkets, they are deeply symbolic. In Etruria, they are placed carefully in graves, wrapped in ritual, given new meaning in the context of death and memory. Consider now the famed Regalini Galassi tomb in Caere, Cerveteri, dating to the 7th century BCE. This richly appointed tomb contains exquisite gold jewelry, bronze cauldrons, and an enormous fibula, or brooch, adorned with lions. Many of these motifs, lions, palmettes, and lotus flowers, derive from Near Eastern art, transmitted through Greek and Phoenician intermediaries. Yet the tomb is unmistakably Etruscan in the spirit. It reflects a worldview where luxury, status, and spirituality are inseparable. The foreign becomes local. The distant is made sacred. The Etruscans are also deeply involved in the politics of central Italy. They form alliances and rivalries with other Italic peoples, the Latins, Sabines, Umbrians, and Samnites. They hold power in the Po Valley to the north, founding cities such as Spina and Felsina, modern Bologna. In Campania to the south, they establish outposts like Capua, which becomes a cultural melting pot of Greek, Etruscan, and native traditions. This wide territorial reach allows the Etruscans to control important land and sea routes, making them wealthy and influential. But it also brings them into conflict, especially with the Greeks and their growing presence in southern Italy. One of the most significant confrontations comes in the early 6th century BCE at the Battle of Alalia, fought off the coast of Corsica. The Etruscans, allied with the Carthaginians, face a fleet of Greek Phocians. The battle is fierce and indecisive, but it marks a turning point. The Greeks retain influence in the western Mediterranean, but the Etruscans hold their ground. Carthage, too, plays a key role in this story. The Etruscans form a strategic alliance with the Carthaginians, who share both trade routes and enemies. This relationship is not only commercial, but cultural. Some Etruscan tombs include Punic goods, and there are stylistic echoes between Etruscan and Carthaginian art, especially in funerary objects and symbolic motifs. Indeed, the Etruscans stand at a crossroads of civilizations. They are intermediaries between East and West, North and South. They do not merely absorb, they blend, reshape, and transmit culture in their own distinctive way. This cultural syncretism is seen most vividly in art. In tomb paintings, we see Greek-style symposiums, but the participants are Etruscan, women and men reclining together, something shocking to the Greeks. In sculpture, gods and heroes wear Eastern crowns, Greek robes, and Etruscan jewelry. In religious imagery, the boundary between local and foreign blurs entirely. Consider the famous sarcophagus of the spouses, a life-size terracotta funerary sculpture found at Cerveteri. It shows a man and woman reclining together, smiling gently, their arms once outstretched in welcome or conversation. Their gestures are expressive. Their eyes are wide, almost dreamlike. They seem not asleep, but deeply at peace, together in death as in life. This sculpture embodies the Etruscan embrace of intimacy, elegance, and otherness. It reflects their openness to the world and their confidence in their own identity. But while the Etruscans flourish in this global Mediterranean, challenges begin to mount. Greek colonies in southern Italy grow stronger and bolder. New cultural powers, like Rome, begin to chafe under Etruscan influence. And the very openness that once made Etruria a beacon of cultural richness now makes it vulnerable. Still, for a time, the Etruscans remain central to the Mediterranean story. Their cities are hubs of trade and thought. Their artisans are admired. Their seers consulted. Their gods invoked even by outsiders. Let us now rest in this moment of connection. Close your eyes and feel the gentle rocking of a ship on open waters. Imagine the gleam of sunlight on bronze, the scent of myrrh and sea salt, the distant call of gulls over a harbor. You are among traders and storytellers, priests and poets, all moving between worlds, carrying not just goods, but meaning. The Etruscans were never alone. They were part of something larger, and in shaping the Mediterranean, they themselves were shaped. We will soon see how this balance begins to unravel. But for now, rest in the hum of distant ports, the warmth of foreign suns, and the steady, timeless rhythm of cultural exchange. Gone is the dazzling brilliance of the Golden Age. In its place, a softer, dimmer glow settles across the hills and cities. The roads are still busy, temples still stand, and families still gather for rituals and meals. But beneath the surface, the world is shifting. A new force begins to rise in the south. A city-state that once borrowed kings' clothes and customs from the Etruscans. A city nurtured under Etruscan influence, but now turning outward, seeking its own destiny. That city is Rome. At first, Rome is an ally, a subject, and a reflection of Etruscan culture. But by the late 6th century BCE, it becomes something else entirely, a rival and soon a conqueror. Let us begin at a moment remembered in Roman tradition, the fall of the Etruscan monarchy in Rome. The last kings of Rome, according to legend, were Etruscan. Tarquinius Priscus, Servius Tullius, and Tarquinius Superbus. The names themselves carry the rhythm of Etruria. These rulers are credited with major architectural and political innovations in early Rome. The Cloaca Maxima, Rome's great sewer, the Temple of Jupiter, and the introduction of Roman triumphal processions, all influenced by Etruscan models. But by 509 BCE, the Roman monarchy is overthrown. Tarquinius Superbus, remembered as cruel and arrogant, is cast out in favor of a new system, the Roman Republic. From this moment onward, Rome defines itself in contrast to Etruscan power. The kingship is rejected, and Etruscan influence becomes something to be managed, even feared. Yet ironically, Etruscan ideas persist. Roman religion, ceremony, and architecture remain filled with Etruscan elements. As Rome begins to expand, it turns its gaze northward, toward Etruria. The Etruscans, meanwhile, face internal challenges. Their city-states are proudly independent, but this independence now becomes a weakness. They have no single army, no unified policy. While Rome consolidates its power through alliances, laws, and legions, the Etruscans remain a confederation of loosely connected cities, each strong but vulnerable alone. Add to this the pressure from beyond Italy. The Greeks continue to compete for territory and trade in the south. To the north, Gallic tribes push into the Po Valley, sacking cities and disrupting networks. The Etruscans respond with resilience. They resist Roman encroachment, engage in battles, form coalitions, and negotiate treaties. But each defeat chips away at their autonomy. A turning point comes in 396 BCE, when Veii, one of the richest and most powerful Etruscan cities, falls to the Romans after a 10-year siege. The Roman general Marcus Furius Camillus leads the conquest, and with Veii's fall, the balance tips decisively. Veii's loss is more than a military event, it is symbolic. A major Etruscan stronghold, just 12 miles from Rome, is absorbed into the Roman state. Its wealth is looted, its gods taken, its people enslaved or displaced. Other cities follow one by one. By the 4th century, before Christ, Tarquinia, Cerveteri, and Volsiniae are drawn into conflicts with Rome. Some resist and are crushed. Others seek peaceful terms but gradually lose their independence through treaties and political subjugation. Still, life continues in Etruria. The cities remain centers of culture and religion, but they are now increasingly Rome's shadow, influential but no longer sovereign. Let us pause here and walk the streets of an Etruscan city during this period of decline. The Forum is still lively. Temples remain active. Children still study Etruscan script, and families still gather for banquets. But Roman coins circulate in the markets. Latin is heard more frequently alongside Etruscan. Roman governors, emissaries, and soldiers pass through the streets. And above all, there is a sense of watchful quiet, as if the people feel history tilting around them. Yet the Etruscans do not disappear. They adapt. In many cities, Etruscan elites maintain their status by integrating into Roman systems. They serve as local magistrates, priests, and even senators. Etruscan temples continue to operate, though often dedicated now to Romanized gods. The language is still spoken, though increasingly supplanted by Latin in official contexts. Archaeological finds from this period show a blending of traditions: Roman-style villas with Etruscan floor plans, Latin inscriptions with Etruscan names, tombs that mix Roman burial methods with older Etruscan symbolism. But over time, the language fades. The rituals become Romanized. The political structures dissolve. And with them, the distinct Etruscan identity begins to wane. The final blow comes in 264 BCE, when Volsini, one of the last proud Etruscan cities, is destroyed by Rome after a local uprising. The Roman army sacks the city, relocates its population, and extinguishes its autonomy. From that moment forward, Etruria is no longer a collection of independent states. It is a Roman province, fully absorbed into the growing republic. And yet, even in this loss, Etruria endures. Etruscan artists continue to craft beautiful objects. Etruscan names still appear on family tombs. Roman authors consult Etruscan seers, and Roman generals perform rites inherited from Etruscan practice. The Senate itself, with its rituals, vestments, and sacred spaces, bears Etruscan fingerprints. The lictors, the fasces, the triumphal arch, and the layout of the Roman Forum all echo the world that came before. As we near the end of this chapter, let us return to a quiet hillside in Etruria. It is evening. The sky is painted in soft oranges and purples. A shepherd walks past an ancient tomb, half buried in earth and ivy. He does not know the names of those within. The language carved on the stones is fading, but something lingers: the stillness, the reverence, the dignity. The Etruscans, though conquered, are not forgotten. Their essence flows quietly into Roman veins. Their cities become Roman towns. Their gods find new names. Their spirit lingers in stone and ritual and silence. So now, let your thoughts settle. You have witnessed the rise and fall of a great people. The arc of centuries has curved gently from power to memory. As the stars begin to appear over ancient fields, rest in the knowledge that the Etruscans shaped history, not with conquest, but with meaning. Sleep now as we enter the final chapter, a reflection on the enduring legacy of this mysterious civilization. As we drift into the twilight hours of our tale, the Etruscans have faded from political memory, their cities folded into the vast framework of Rome. And yet, their presence never truly disappears. It lingers quietly, like an echo across the Tuscan hills, waiting to be remembered. In the centuries after their decline, Roman authors preserve flickers of Etruscan memory. They speak of ancient rituals and forgotten cities, of curious customs and powerful priests. Yet the true richness of Etruscan life, the laughter in the banquet halls, the rhythms of daily life, the voices of artisans and mothers and farmers, slips quietly into silence. The Latin language consumes the land. Etruscan becomes a ghost tongue, still carved into tombs and temples, yet no longer spoken aloud. Over time, even the meaning of its script begins to fade from living knowledge. And so, for many generations, the Etruscans are remembered not for what they were, but for what they weren't. To Roman minds, they are a mysterious other, a people who came before, whose wisdom was arcane, whose culture was alien, and whose gods were distant and strange. But time is never truly linear. It spirals, loops, and returns. And many centuries later, that spiral brings curious minds back to Etruria. We find ourselves in the early modern age, during the Italian Renaissance, when scholars and artists begin to reawaken a passion for the ancient world. Rome is their focus, of course. But as they dig and search for ruins, they stumble upon something older, different, stranger. They find tombs beneath the earth, carved into stone with painted walls still radiant after 2,000 years. They unearth bronze mirrors etched with gods unfamiliar and inscriptions in a language no one can read. These are not Roman, these are Etruscan. In Tarquinia, Cerveteri, Chiusi, and beyond, the land gives up its secrets slowly. Vast necropoles, cities of the dead, reveal a civilization more sophisticated, more joyful, and more enigmatic than imagined. Archaeologists marvel at the vivid colors of tomb frescoes, where dancers leap and flutists play beside scenes of feasts and processions. These are not somber graves, they are celebrations of life. They show us people who embraced beauty and ritual, who honored their dead not with cold stone, but with images of movement, music, and memory. As the 18th and 19th centuries unfold, fascination with the Etruscans blossoms into a scholarly pursuit. Antiquarians collect artifacts, museums fill with black figure pottery, bronze votive statues, and delicate gold earrings. Linguists strain to decipher the Etruscan script, poring over every surviving inscription. And slowly, so very slowly, the outlines of their world come back into view. We learn that the Etruscan language is not Indo-European, not descended from Latin or Greek. It stands alone, an isolate, offering few clues, yet tantalizing hints. We decipher some words, names of gods, rituals, kinship terms. But the full grammar remains elusive, like mist slipping through the fingers. Still, the artifacts speak. We see the sarcophagus of the spouses, a tender sculpture from Cerveteri, showing a man and woman reclining together, their faces serene, their arms outstretched in eternal conversation. It is a portrait of love, companionship, and dignity beyond the grave. We find bronze liver models used in divination, showing how deeply the Etruscans mapped the body and the cosmos. We uncover great bronze chimera, mythical beasts combining lion, serpent, and goat, once placed in temples as offerings or guardians. And we discover urban layouts, roads, walls, and drainage systems, showing that Etruscan engineering was every bit as advanced as the early Romans. Their cities were well-planned, fortified, and connected through trade networks that spanned from the Alps to the shores of Africa. Yet for all our discoveries, mystery remains. Where did the Etruscans truly come from? Were they indigenous to Italy, as some ancient writers claimed? Or did they arrive by sea from the east, perhaps from Lydia in Anatolia, as Herodotus once suggested? Modern DNA studies offer conflicting clues, traces of continuity with earlier Italian populations, yet hints of links to the Near East. The truth may be both, or neither. But perhaps the greater question is not where they came from, but how they lived and how they are remembered. Their influence on Roman culture is undeniable. Rome inherited Etruscan religious rituals, symbols of authority, and urban planning principles. The curule chair, the toga, the triumphal procession, all bear Etruscan fingerprints. Even the very word Rome may be linked, some suggest, to Etruscan roots. Today, the legacy of the Etruscans lives on not only in the marble halls of museums, but in the place names and landscapes of central Italy. Cities like Perugia, Volterra, and Arezzo sit atop ancient Etruscan foundations. The region of Tuscany itself preserves their memory in its very name, Etruria reborn. And for those who walk the quiet hills of Lazio and Umbria, a sense of presence lingers. In the stillness of an overgrown tomb, in the curve of an ancient archway, in the strange letters chiseled into stone, there remains a whisper of another world. A world where priests watch the skies and birds in flight, where artisans etched stories into mirrors, where men and women reclined as equals beneath painted ceilings, drinking wine and toasting life. A world lost, but not forgotten. As you close your eyes now, and the ancient earth settles beneath you, let this thought rest gently in your mind. History is not only made by conquerors and empires, it is also made by those whose names fade, whose language falls silent, but whose spirit endures, in clay, in bronze, in fresco, and in the memories we choose to awaken. Sleep now, with the Etruscans, and let their story dream softly with you.